right, so here we are.
Yes.
We're rolling. We've already started chatting.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me.
This is good. Sam Young, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to see you in person.
Yes.
Thankfully, technology allows me to meet and talk to people from all over the world. Today, it allows me to meet you here in London. And you're just back from some travels, and you get to do a lot of gigging. But maybe what I'd like to start with is kind of some of your background. I read a little bit about your story. I try to not successfully play guitar myself, and I'm a drummer, which I do play well. But sometimes they're hard. Instruments are difficult to learn.
Definitely. When you're younger, yeah, sure.
So tell me a little bit about that story and how you got into spinning turntables.
Man, I was always obsessed with like dancing and just having my dad's record collection at hand when I was younger. So I was always listening to like Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, the Bob Marleys, and all that stuff. And he'd always play music really loud in my household, so I'd hear everything from like Jean-Michel Jarre to Bob Dylan to Michael Jackson, wherever. And then my brother, I've got an older brother, so that he was a massive influence as well. Right. So just that two year and a bit gap between me and him was huge, because he's coming back with like Public Enemy, NWA, all the early dance music and stuff. So then also on the UK radio, and I only realised this when I got older, that a lot of the music that was being played on the UK radio when I was younger was early house music. The UK kind of championed all like Inner City and all these the Euro dance records like Black Box and all these other classics. Like even the UK had like S Express. But when I was younger, I didn't know it was house music. I just thought it was like a dance record.
Right.
So just growing up with this influence of such a mishmash of music, which I think England is known for anyway. And then when I was younger, for some reason, my mother was like, yeah, you guys should, learn piano or guitar. She really tried. Like me and my brother went and did piano lessons for a good while. And obviously we only wanted to learn Michael Jackson songs, so we learned Billie Jean on piano and all this stuff. And I got my mum got me the acoustic guitar. But I think it's just a learning thing. It's just like when you're not developed enough to like, you have different interests when you're younger. I was obsessed with like, music and wrestling, WWF and Thundercats and all this other stuff. Wherever, in your mind you're like, yeah, I want to be a guitarist. I want to be like the guys in Guns N' Roses or whoever your heroes are at the time. But that actually learning how to do it is when you're a kid is very hard. I think if you did it when you're older, you probably get away with it a bit faster.
Well, this isn't about me, but just I'm left-handed, so I thought, I'd have to buy a left-handed guitar, which would be a real pain in the butt. So I never really learned to play, but I figured I'll just learn when I got older. I'm like, I really want to play, so I'll play right-handed.
Yeah.
Even though I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about, because you talked about the piano, which is it's acoustic, the guitar, which is acoustic. In the post that I saw, you went to Mixtapes, which now starts to bring some technology, and I'm just wondering, did technology have a role to play in your ability or an inspiration to?
Oh, no, definitely. So I was not academic at all when I was in school. So here in England, we have like, when you finish secondary school, you do your GCSEs. Right. And I completely flunked mine because...
It's a big deal to get a good score if you want to do something.
Kind of, it's probably like So I was obsessed, I remember one of my best friends at the time when I was, in my formative years, he was the only one who had the box cable channel. And I've been like, I was the only kid I knew who was reading like Vibe magazine, the Source magazine. And I was more of into hip hop and R&B when I was growing up. I was obsessed with like audio. Like my dad, he's a photographer. I remember he came back from New York once. He bought me like the Nice and Smooth album on cassette and some other stuff, and I was obsessed with this Nice and Smooth album. It was the second one, around 91, 92. And then my brother obviously was in the Public Enemy and NWA and Beastie Boys and Nirvanas and all that, And then from there, like I was just really wanted to share this music that I loved with my friends. And all my friends in my school I ended up going to like the school my brother was at wasn't that good. It was called Henry Compton in Fulham. So my mother was like, she had, like, long story short, she took me out to send me to this private school it was the International School of London in Gunnersbury. And it was very strange for me because I was the only English kid in my class. I'm in London.
Okay.
So I was surrounded by Italian, Spanish, all these like kids from Kuwait because it was a Gulf War.
Yeah.
So I grew up with loads of mixture of friends, but a lot of them they weren't that musically inclined, like on what's good music. So I'd be making these mixtapes for them, saying, "Oh, you got to check out this guy Biggie. You got to check out Wu-Tang. You got to check out and I noticed the big switch. And talking about technology is like when Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style came out. That's when I saw the massive switch in the commercialism of music and especially hip hop.
Right.
So suddenly everyone was just like, "Oh, Snoop Dogg, like I'm in the hip hop now." And then Tupac came along, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Tupac." And but I noticed these changes. All the girls and even the girls in that time were just massive the pop fans, the Backstreet Boys and the NSYNCs of the world, which I hated at the time. So that's why I find it quite funny. I'm going to fast forward a bit. So that's why I find funny now, like especially if you go online, you'll see people talking about throwbacks. Like only the throwbacks are big in the parties and the clubs and the remix of old songs.
Right.
And I was kind of quite amusing for myself because it never used to be that way. But it's only because new music is not as the lifeline of new songs is not it doesn't last long. It's very throwaway. So it's like these songs, they're very throwaway. It's like McDonald's. So there's some that will stick around, but that's why everyone still goes back to
hard to make a classic.
Yeah, like even I was looking on the Shazam charts again recently, and I'm in a DJ website going, and someone was just like, "Oh, Chemical Brothers, Q-Tip, Go is big again," because it was in some Netflix thing. But that's the era we're in now, where if something's in the TV or a movie or something like an old song, would be like bring it back to life. It's not a bad thing. But yes, I was obsessed with like making mixtapes, and then it ended up being my hustle as well. So I'd go around there was an area in Kensington. There used to be a place called Kensington Market, and I used to go in there and sell like £5 mixtapes to like all the cool clothing shops and stuff. And
so they buy like a handful of them and resell them.
Well, it would be the music I was collecting, and I just make these little like basically there's like they weren't like mix tapes in the sense of me DJing. I was just making a basic like a compilation of like really great songs I love, and I'd go and sell them for £5, which was decent money in those days. So you didn't need it was enough money for me to keep my habit of buying music. So that answers your question.
So at some point so obviously mixtape, you said it's compilation. Eventually you start to actually mix things. You eventually got
so that came late. That came
turntables.
A bit later.
Your brother and yourself both got turntables?
My brother bullied me into buying turntables. So we're about 13, 14, and he was we didn't have the money to buy Technics. It was too much money in those days. So we're like, we're just gonna get these belt drive. We got these two, I can't remember what the make of them was, but it was their belt drive turntables. Okay. But in a way, I went along with it because at the time, just obviously this is pre-streaming, pre-YouTube, all this stuff. So all the music I liked that I was listening to on the radio and seeing on the box and stuff was all on vinyl.
Right.
So I remember the first 12-inch me and my brother bought was like, in Ikamosi, I think it was Here Comes the Hot Stepper. It was a copy of Dr. J, the Chronic album, which I don't know where it's gone to now, but it's probably worth a fortune. I don't know where that's gone. It vanished from my collection. I was like, I definitely had a copy of that. It's like gone.
It happens.
So we had, me and him. So I remember that when we got the turntables, because he was like, this is a cool thing to do. We're going to be DJs. So we're buying like, jungle hits. Jungle drum and bass was around that 93, 94 was really big. So we were buying like the jungle compilations. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just buying music we liked.
Right.
And then the DJing.
Now was it to perform, to record? What were you doing? Just playing around?
We just were messing around in our bedroom with our friends would come over and we'd all, think we were, I don't know if DJs were, that influenced us back then, but we were like, we're gonna, try and scratch them wherever. But on belt drives, it's horrible. So we, But for me personally, it was more about just owning these records that I loved. And then the DJing side came a bit earlier than that, because I remember in my school discos, because I was such a music snob from a young age, that I knew my music taste was better than everyone else's. I just knew from a young age. I was like, this is like, they're listening to Backstreet Boys and all this rubbish like on the charts, and I'm listening to Wu-Tang and Biggie and Nas, Illmatic, and I'm just like, I think I was quite advanced in that sense that I was.
Well, let's touch on that for a second, because there's a lot of this is going to be about technology, but the algorithms.
Yes.
Right. What is good? You said you knew which music was better.
Well, it was my personal view, yeah.
Right, personal views, but now personal views aren't even our own.
It's true.
Right, we're pushed. I don't do much.
Algorithm
I guess maybe I do.
It's straight. No, but
take the algorithm, but we're kind of fed what we think we should like, and a lot of what we think we should like is developed by algorithms and models that organizations, companies, the big labels know will work.
The game has changed,
right? So how does that shape what you do? Because obviously performing for folks, they think they want to hear certain things, but then you maybe introduce something, you're like, I'm gonna shake this up a bit. How does that?
Well, I think the DJ's taste now has changed. I mean, the way we dictate what is good and what is not has changed quite a bit, because obviously everyone has access to these millions and millions, billions of songs on streaming.
Right.
So everyone can, sometimes I'll be DJing or someone will come up to me and be like, play this, and I've never heard of it.
Right.
But I'll make a mental note of it. I'll be like, okay, I don't have it on me, but I'll check it out. And I think, because I do a lot of private events, it's very different when you're doing a private event and when you're doing a club event. It's two different things. Because when you're doing a private event, you're getting paid quite handsomely to basically kind of do what you do mixed with what they want. Right. It's their party, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, like I did a wedding, when I do weddings and birthdays, it can be anniversaries, whatever, I always talk to them about music, because obviously it's not a club where I'm going in and say this certain venue, like the venue that I just showed you.
Right.
So example, that venue that's opening, they have a policy of nothing from the last 10 years. And it's all, and you can play anything from like 70s disco all the way up until anything from the last 10 years, within reason.
Right.
It's more like, mixture of, 90s, noughties, kind of like that 2012 house music and hip hop, R&B, disco. You can mix. It's just a big mixer of stuff. You can play edits. So obviously you can play remixes, edits of old stuff, but it just can't be like the latest, Chapel Roan record that just came out last week, for example. Right. Some people do it.
You can do it.
You can. It's a blurred line, but their policy is like, you know what I mean. But what I'm trying to say is like, when you're doing a certain venue, like say if I'm playing a Ministry of Sound, it's a house music night, you're going in there, you can probably play all the 500 promos I get sent weekly by record labels. I can go in there and play, 30 records you've never heard before, because people are going in there to hear that.
Right.
But where you're doing a private event, it's kind of like it's a very fine line of like, you got to please the client because they might not want any ABBA, for example, or no hip hop. And I've done parties where literally they've been very strict on like, don't play any hip hop or don't play any of this. Like seriously, like when you're getting paid a lot of money, like that's what, I don't, it's one night only or two night, whatever, however long the event is, it's fine. But what I mean is, that's why I think a lot of kids now like to go and do, make their own edits and remixes, because they want to. It's like, oh, I'm playing like the cool underground stuff. It's kind of going against the grain a little bit.
Right. So how do you, when somebody gives you a frame, to be a club or a private event, they say this is what we want, this is what we don't want. Do they give you kind of a feeling? Do they give you an outcome that they want? They want people to like dance and have fun?
I think the outcome was always, the goal is always the same.
Okay.
You want everyone to have a good time. And this is what I always say to people, like, regardless of your taste in music, you've got to think about your guests. And this is what a lot of people forget when they, because a lot of it comes down to ego. It's like, it's my party, I'm spending a lot of money, this is what me and my husband or whatever, this is what we like. Great. But what about your guests? Do your guests like the same thing that you like?
Right.
And that's a really important question. And sometimes they don't take it into account. And I've done weddings where they don't take into account what other people like. They're literally so strict. They're like, no, everyone's gonna like what we like. And it falls and it's flat. And it's painful because you're just, and you kind of like say, then you kind of like, when you switch it up without even asking them, it's just you're like, I need to save this party.
Right.
And then it's an amazing, and they don't say anything, but you kind of like, you want to say something like, told you, you know, because sometimes some people's, I've done weddings where like they're you know, some people do have a very unique taste in like electronic music and stuff.
Right.
And sometimes they're sending me songs and I'm like, I've never heard any of this. And when you actually listen to it, you actually, not being an asshole, but you're like, anyone dance to this?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
maybe it's a good melody, a good beat, but is it a four to the floor that's going to get people?
But you know, I run a dance label of my own. I've signed bands to big labels. I've DJed how many 30 years, and I've had this discussion with so many other DJs, and we all say the same thing, that you can tell instantly about a client's taste in music just by looking at what they send you. You can tell straight away, like, oh, this is gonna be great, and the other one where you're like, oh, this is gonna be tough. It's true.
You're gonna have to look at my playlist and see what.
But I just think, like, you know, it's like what I say to, you know, when me and other DJs talk. It's like, if I had a birthday of my own, I wouldn't put people through the torture of listening to what I like. You know, like, yeah, I'm gonna play loads of 90s underground hip hop and the stuff like I mean, because the majority wouldn't know it, and I'm not egotistical enough to think that they would know it.
Right.
And be sitting there going like, oh yeah, they're gonna know some random DJ Premier remix or whatever.
Well, depending on who the audience is. I mean, even just a few, like you and your brother, even just a few years can make a huge difference in what's popular and or interesting to somebody, and maybe their own their own experiences in life.
Yeah.
Will draw them to certain things during that time. So producing, signing, where do you see things at the moment in terms of music? And I'm most interested in terms of like creativity and innovation, and I don't know how to bring up the two-letter word.
It's a big subject because obviously I find, because I run a label called WyldCard. I've been running it since 2019, and I find.
Do you get a lot of crap?
I do. I have to go. I do it with A&R myself. Yeah. I go through the demos once a week myself, and it's not genre specific. When I mean genre specific, I mean obviously everything is.
It's not just country.
It's like it's all house electronic music, but I mean it's not just like, you know, vocal house. It's not just deep house. Like it can be, as long as if it's good and I'm feeling it, I'll put it out. But I've noticed trends very quickly. Yeah. Because apart from me running the label, I get sent. I've been on the mailing list for a lot of these labels for, you know, 25 years. So, you know, some of the biggest, you know, all the Universal, there's like one company called like Your Army and all these guys, you know, they're dealing with the creme de la creme of house dance music. So like Fisher's label, Chris Lakes, and all this stuff, they send you the promo. I get sent. So you notice trends real fast. Then so when all these new artists send me demos, you start it gets very boring very quickly when everyone's copying each other. Then you're just like, and sometimes you've got to be brutally honest and reply to them and say, look, you're just following a trend here. You need to, you know, go back to unless it's like, I don't know, when someone really stands out, it really does stand out, because you're just like, you know.
So that's something you've been able to pick up on.
I think it's not just with dance music; it's just in general, just even with pop, like even just with popular, just like even with the singers and like the pop side of stuff. So
what are some of the things that you and perhaps you use technology? I forget where I was sitting. I think I was in New York somewhere, and some guy came up to me and said, I was at an arts group where there are a bunch of artists and different things. And the guy says, I built this system that will tell you if a song is going to be a hit or not. And he was out selling this platform.
Okay.
And so I guess ingesting submissions from people, and I'm like, I don't know why you're selling me that, because I'm not an A&R guy, but anyway. how do you find what's unique? How do you feel that it's worth signing?
You can hear it, like when you can hear when someone does something quite original or like just it's going against the grain a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, I get sent some promos from labels where it's not something I would play, but you can just tell it's very unique.
Right.
And so I'll give the feedback and say, look, I wouldn't play this, but it's definitely definitely going against the grain here. You're doing something original, but there's a lot. But I find, but
so I'd want to pump it into something like Shazam and say, is there other stuff like this?
Oh yeah.
And kind of get that level of. So it might seem unique to me. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, I think it's because I hear the trends. Like I remember when trap music kind of started making the new era of trap music around 2010 was coming out, and me and a friend of mine, we kind of teamed up. We're like, oh yeah, this is the next thing. And we just kind of quickly made a little alias called Raw Like Sushi, and we did a bunch of bootlegs of like popular songs. Put them all out on like on SoundCloud and stuff, and it's a bit like with the Vanilla Ace alias when that I had back, which I started in 2012, which I kind of paused it at the moment, but I did the same thing with that. So I was DJing, doing the clubs, and then suddenly this new trend of new sound of like deep house, new disco was coming, like indie dance, and at first I didn't quite get it, but then I remember how I kind of caught the bug is because Ministry of Sound approached me and some other DJs to be part of. We were going to be like this head. You remember you ever heard of Head Candy? Yeah. So they wanted me and these other DJs to be part of this Head Candy thing, which never took off. It never happened. But I remember the guy who was running it. He said we like this sound, and he sent us this playlist of this deep house stuff that was really cool and underground, and it was so underground at the time. But I was a bit like, oh, I've never really heard of all this, and it was like Jamie Jones, Hungry for the Power, all this stuff, and then so this is around like I think 2012, 11, and then I was like, oh, I like this, and then I noticed some of the samples, especially the new disco stuff. They're using the old night, they're doing like new disco versions of like Montel Jordan, just how we do it, like really obvious bait stuff. And then I started hearing more and more. Then I thought, oh, I should mess around with this. Because at that point, I'd been doing stuff under my name, like Sam Young. I was trying to be like the next David Guetta, Calvin Harris. I was trying to do the big room, Swedish House Mafia, Calvin Harris thing. Yeah. And I wasn't having much success with it. I was like, and I had a label back then called Nod Factor as well, which I love that name, by the way. So that label is now defunct. It's stopped. But I remember I was putting out stuff on Nod Factor and whatever, but I wasn't really taking it seriously and stuff. And so this new deep house sound was coming out, and I thought, oh, let me just make some demos and whatever. And I started utilizing all these sample ideas I've been sitting on for ages. So like, I remember my first EP, I signed to Fatboy Slim's label called Southern Fried. Okay. And so that I remember like the feedback on that from that EP was so good. Like there was a guy called a Magician at the time. I mean, the Magician is still around, but at the time he had a thing called a Magic Tape on SoundCloud, and SoundCloud was like literally it's different now because it's probably not as prolific in that sense where the plays, like the numbers are nuts. Like his mixtape in 1 week you'd have 350,000 plays in a couple of like days, and then it'd be like mad. So if you're on this Magic Tape, you were getting noticed. Right. So he put 3 Vanilla Ace songs on mine in 3 months in a row, like bam, 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 and I was like, oh crap, wow, something must be going on. Something's going on, right? And then other people were liking my stuff. There's a guy called Moon Boots who's still around. So Moon Boots recommended me to this one UK agent, and then I got on this massive. At the time there was a very cool label called Off Recordings, which was from Berlin. The German guy called Andre Krom ran it, and he didn't know me from Adam. He didn't know me from Jack. I just like, this is the cool label. I like their stuff. I'm gonna email them. So I sent him one track I'd made. He's like, yeah, it's really good, but you need a B-side, like something like a bit more commercial. And I thought, oh, what can I do? So being the hip hop fan that I was, I thought I really liked the Eric Sermon song Music when he samples Marvin Gaye, a Marvin Gaye track called I think I Love My Music or something. I might be wrong on that title, but it's along those lines. So I just thought, let me do like a Dr. Dre inspired G-funk version of that track, and that was the B-side. So the A-side did really well, like Pete Tong's playing it, like I didn't even realize at the time, 'cause I didn't really realize you could how to search how your stuff's getting played everywhere. But anyway, the song did really well on Beatport. I ended up touring the world for the next 8 years off the back of, this wasn't, I had numerous releases on other labels, but I think as a DJ, it was just that, your fingers on the pulse, I think a lot of the time, well, my finger, I don't know, I've always been like that, where I've always like, okay, this is hot, this was popping off, and I kind of ran with it. And the funny thing with the Marvin Gaye track was a couple years later, Tina Fey had this movie called Sisters or something, and they wanted that song for the party scene in that film, but obviously I couldn't do it because we never cleared the sample.
Well, let's talk about that, samples. I mean, and creativity and creating new stuff. Because I know a lot of success, oftentimes the song might be okay, and then as soon as the Chemical Brothers pick it up and remix it becomes something.
It was a learning lesson for me, because I was like, I remember I was in Dubai at the time and I got the email, and it was from off recordings. They're like, oh, we got this email, Universal Pictures, it's like, they want to use this song for the movie. And I was like, oh man, I said, unless we get someone to re-sing it, then possibly. But it was like, we just didn't have enough time, and then they ended up going with something else. But in a way, I'm just like, damn it, I should have done everything I could have got it re-sung, because it would have been, that's in the movie for life.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone would have,
So how do you view, I'll just say it, AI?
AI.
Where perhaps it's taking the sample exactly as it is, and it just, I don't know, instead of an acoustic, it's making a piano or whatever. But your view on creative rights, because obviously pretty much your career is based on taking things and presenting them to people in a way that makes them feel something maybe different than they're just listening to the album at home, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of backlash on the whole AI thing at the moment. Like, especially even platforms like TrackSource had to come out and be like, they're gonna have to label songs that were blatantly assisted by AI. They're gonna have to have a label for it. So saying this song is assisted by AI and whatever. And I think there's a lot of it going on, because so many artists now, like a shortcut for artists now, because there's no disrespect to anyone, but creativity, I think, is at an all-time low, where everyone they're quick. They think the quick route to success is to do a cover version of a big song. And I'm not disrespecting anyone, but it's not for me personally.
Right.
But I know a lot of DJs doing it. And they're literally trying to make that. But there's people eating it up, like, oh my God, this guy made a dance version of Guns N' Roses, or it's like, great. But it's like, for DJs it's okay, but it has to be good. And I just think, if you look at the 90s and the 2000s and stuff, the reason why people still love all those songs and and the Daft Punks and the Chemical Brothers, and that's how it was, because they're doing original stuff,
right?
Or even the sampling was original. Even in my Sammy Deuce alias I have at the moment, which is doing really well on streaming, and I don't tour over anything like that, but at least I try and pride myself on sampling something that no one else is going to do.
Right.
If you go on some of these, look at some of the charts now of other new disco art producers, for example, they'll literally just go for the most, say someone last week sampled Sister Sledge. Someone else will just go and copy the exact same thing and be like, well, I'm going to do it my way. But it's kind of it's already been done.
Right.
Why do we need 50 versions of the same thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's for me, I think, and I'll say this till I'm blue in the face and I'll die on this hill.
Okay.
The reason why the Daft Punks, the Chemical Brothers, the Prodigies, and all these guys are so revered and so excellent at what they did, because they were taking the most unknown gem that you never heard of in your life and making it something. A bit like how hip hop was. That's why sampling is an art.
Yep.
And what these people are doing is not.
Right.
End of story. And I happily sit down. I say this to their face, and but it's a shortcut. I get it. You want quick success. People got to eat. I get it. You want success, but it's not pushing the buttons. It's not pushing anything forward. You're just recycling. But it's not just music. It's film.
Oh, it's everything.
He-Man's coming out next week. You got nothing better to do. I did Idris Elba's wedding. He's in it. Great for him. I'm sure he's got a big paycheck. How many films have to be recycled?
Everything's recycled. So I have this question. We're going to close with this, and maybe we have more chats later. Maybe I'll come see you perform somebody's wedding. Maybe I'll crash. I have this view that very few will be able to kind of break through like you're describing, where the mind is still in control of what's being created and the tools don't take over. And that's one way of me saying what I've said for many times over many years, that I feel that technology is taking us down a path of commonality where we're going to end up with everything moving, everything around us will look and sound the same.
I was talking to my hairdresser today. You see, I got my haircut. Sorry.
There you go. I didn't get mine.
Even the kids today, even the kids in London today, they're all dressed the same, same haircuts. There's no originality. Even with the kids, it's actually quite absurd when you think about teenagers. If you think about the rebellion of teenagers over the years, usually they're against the grain. He's so original, even in his appearance, what he listens to. Like his name's Nico Can, by the way, check him out. But it's just so refreshing because he knows everything about Bruce Springsteen, he knows everything about Bob Dylan, he knows about new music, old music, and it's just so refreshing. Like this guy's young kid in his probably, I think he's like early 20s, and it's just like him and his friends, the way they dress and everything. It's just like oh my god, it's just so refreshing to see compared to like everything else. But
So will we end up in a world where everything is the same, or
I hope not.
Or
I really hope not.
So you're seeing people, and what's your role?
What's my role? I try and help them. I try and give as much advice as possible. I try and help them as much as possible. And again, like I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Fred Again fan. I can see why Fred Again got big, because he stood out like a sore thumb compared to everyone else around him. And he was original in that sense, So there is little gems. You'll find there is still some originality out there. You know what? It's people's like even I did a wedding with Bruno Mars last year, and people would knock Bruno Mars to high heaven and be like, oh, it's commercial, it's this, that, whatever. But not really. He actually does stand in his own lane.
He can perform like nobody.
He can perform. He's got a great voice, and if you go and listen to actual music. Against all the other R&B rubbish that's out there, he stands out like that's why he's so big. It's the same as a Fred Again. So there are some gems where they're like, well, they're big for a reason. It's but it's very few. Like what I mean is, like if you look at the 80s and 90s, you had Michael Jackson going up against Prince, Madonna, the Springsteens, if you look at the charts, it's mad. And now it's like, if you're standing out like Fred Again, the reason why you're huge is because there's not much competition. Really, if you're that at that level, there's not really, So
so much fun stuff. I love the world of music.
I don't know. So do I. So do I. I could talk about the technology and the ins and outs of it all day long. Like I signed there's a band I signed called Kasabian in 2001 to BMG. So in that early 2000s, they were probably the biggest rock band in England or in Europe. I don't think they really made it in America. But they were like, their songs are on like adverts, video games, they were everywhere. And I remember when I first heard their demo, I'm not a purveyor of rock music or, but I know good music when I hear it. And the way I got them signed, it was like a fairy tale. I literally, so I'd done I'd done like work experience at Sony Music during my college years, and there was a friend of mine who I knew there. He started working at BMG. I was leaving my job to DJ full time. I had this band's demo. Their manager at the time was like, yeah, get them signed, whatever. Hit up my friend. He's like, yeah, I'm looking for a band. Played it. He's like, oh my God, blew his mind. I was like, I knew they were good, but I didn't know it was going to be this fast. We do audition with the heads of BMG. So literally the band, me, heads of BMG. This is around Christmas time to like 2000, end of 2000. No, sorry, 2001. And then beginning of 2002, bang, they got signed. Like, it's unheard of. And then they go on to be, you know, I think actually the lead singer, he just did a record with Calvin Harris. Yeah. So, but, you know.
Fairy tales exist.
Fairy tales do exist, and like, you know, it's one of those lightning in a bottle moments.
Right.
And I realized at that time, I'm like, this is unheard of. To take a band into, like, obviously they all knew me anyway because I was on the mailing list. They knew me as a, you know, DJ around town, and you know. But that moment would be like, that's something when you find real talent, and like you know it. But I think you know, that's what I say. It's like, not everyone. I think I always say DJs will always make the best A&R because we've got the ear.
Well, you see the response.
You see it in real time.
Yeah.
You see stuff in real time. If you're really on fingers on the pulse, like you know, you're getting sent demos, you're getting sent music, and you see what's going on, and, you know. And sometimes you can be a bit too ahead of the game, and that was I had that mistake with Vanilla Ace when I was making with my Vanilla Ace edit. So sometimes I was too on it. Like sometimes I was like switched genres and I jumped the gun a bit. You know, I'd be doing like, I'd jump to like tech house or something way like before it was, you know, maybe a bit too before it got big, and then it got big years later, and it was like, well, I was doing that 5 years ago.
That's interesting. I always bring it back to technology. I wonder if some of the stuff we're seeing now will surface eventually as something interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. No. I mean, no. But the way. But if you want to go back to the AI and making music, it's super. I think that is they've made it super easy now.
Right.
You know, someone was talking to me about a DJ I saw posting on Facebook literally this weekend. I think he was talking about Suno and samples. What you were saying, and they're saying that Suno it won't accept, like, say you put a James Brown sample in, it won't accept it because it can't, it won't, for some reason, mess around. It just can't figure it out. And he was quite an interesting post, and I was like, I didn't know that. So you can't actually put like a Miles Davis sample in there, or James Brown or Parliament, and then expect it to replicate something similar or do. I know I've seen all the Suno adverts and stuff, and it's kind of like I get it, but it's like a cheat code almost.
Yeah. And see, I'm a developer, so I immediately think, all right, so they've put in all these guardrails. Somebody could easily build their own models, and
someone will,
and do their own. And take advantage.
I've said for years.
That's what I'm saying. Hacking, right?
It'll literally get to a point where I'll be sitting down with the app, and I'll be verbalizing what I want. I'll be like, okay, put this sample in from my iTunes, wherever, bang. Okay, I want you to create something similar to this. Cool. I want you to do this. Go through the drums. Cool. Literally, it'd be like Minority Report. I'm just gonna be like, done.
We do that with editing.
Yeah.
For editing our videos.
Literally, that's how it's going to be. And I'd be like, okay, I got an idea for a song, harmony. Okay, can we make it sound like Stevie Wonder? Okay, Sam, how about these different voices?
Right.
And you'll literally give me 10 options. I'm going to be like, this one.
Yeah, exactly.
I've said it for years.
Cool.
I've said it for so many, like, I've said to people, I said, literally, it's going to get to that point where it's going to be, like, but even with Serato Studio, so Serato has a studio thing. I can make an edit on my own in like half an hour.
Yep.
You've got the stems now. I can just take vocal off, take drums off, make a mashup. Like I did one recently of like LaRue Bulletproof. I did it while I was on holiday in January. My wife was getting ready. I finished it in half an hour while she was getting ready. It was like an old Sylvester disco sample that I love, this loop. And I thought, I need a vocal. And I got the LaRue Bulletproof. And everyone's just like, oh my God, this is great. It does sound great. But that's the kind of stuff I like to make, like where it's like I'm taking something obscure, and make it relevant with like something familiar.
Yeah.
You know, so you know.
Yeah, I love exploring and being creative like that too.
I just hate when people. I think it's just my upbringing on 90s hip hop where you just don't bite.
Right.
The whole biting, you just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like if someone's done it, don't do it again. Like if someone's done it, great. Like if for example, when I'm making my Sammy Do stuff, if I say I find a sample I like, I'll go and check as much as possible if it's been used. If it has, I'm like, that guy really did it really well. I don't need to do it.
Right.
What's the point? Someone's already done it.
Yep.
Just go, you know.
Yep.
Or my favorite is if you find a record and it's not on streaming or YouTube. That's like a holy grail.
Right.
You're like, oh my God, yes. That's really
and see that to me, that's where all the tech to help free up the space to be creative.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And yeah, when the tech is being used to replace the creative piece
definitely.
completely, then it's
there is still some originality out there. Especially like I think that's why TV is so good now, because more the original stuff is happening in the TV world than the film world.
Yeah.
You know, that's why streaming, I think, you know, we're in this golden era of, you know, these amazing TV shows. You know, you look at Breaking Bad and all these, you know, we're quite
creating new stories, not just a repeat.
I'm a massive, like, if I always say to people, if I wasn't in music, I would probably be in like TV or movies. Or
a lot of them are based on books from years and years ago.
There's
rooted,
there's so many untapped stories and so many books untapped.
Same story.
But there's so many untapped books. Like I've got loads at home. I'm like, oh my God, this would make a great film or TV series. And I find a lot of, you know, a lot of TV series, a lot of it, they do just recycle the same stories. It's just different names and ways. It's like, come on, it's been done. How many times do you need to do a story about a CIA or FBI drug bust or whatever? Come on, it's been done. It's been done 50,000 times.
I know.
It's like, come on, let's get original.
People like it.
They like it,
but
I think but it's like what we're saying. It's too familiar. It's
I know.
Like, I like the familiar story.
Exactly.
You know, it's not too. It doesn't hurt their brain too much.
It's an interesting times. Well, we could talk for hours. I don't think.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think the audience would sit for 2 hours. They might. I don't know. Maybe some.
So good. I know I can talk for ages.
Yeah, let's keep in touch and
we can do one in New York.
We'll do one in New York when you're in town. I'll find a spot. Maybe we can get you behind a
for sure, definitely
set of gear and get going.
Yeah.
Sam, thanks a million.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody for joining for this Music Evolves podcast.
Thanks.
And check out Sam's stuff, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thanks.